Good morning. My name is Scott Rudler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com.
And I'm Brittany Umar, and together we bring you Morning Call. We are seeing mostly green arrows around the world as PMIs came in solid, helping Europe go from negative to positive and then some. Asia is mixed, continuing to be led by the Shanghai, while our futures are up about 3 to 4 handles as the summer grind that we keep mentioning, Scott, continues.
Maybe we should write some kind of song, write it in, because that's what has been going on. And if you point to the overseas action, basically Europe continues to be a little bit of a drag, not falling apart, but off the highs. And then you have Asia and the Shanghai, which has been leading the way. And in my 2014 thesis, I talked about the FXI, how to maybe do a monthly buy program, so at some point it could break out and then get paid, kind of like what the S&P did when it broke out last year above that 1355 or even 1555. Well, look at the weekly chart of the FXI. The weekly chart of the FXI, which is right in front of you, is pretty awesome. Okay, this goes back all the way to 2008. Look at this downtrend that it's been in. So I figured at some point it's going to break above it, not knowing when. So why not accumulate the FXI over the course of 2014. So if you've been doing that, congratulations. It's just starting to break out. So with that said, I would stay with it, and if you think it's already come a long way and you're trying to short the FXI, I would just be a bit careful because over multiple years it's just taking place. I know if you go to the daily, it looks a little bit extended, especially considering, remember, we talked about this gap here, on how to time it, and the gap came in right around 35, which was a good spot to switch some gears if you were shorter term versus looking for some type of macro approach. So back to the S&P, the SPX, you go to the daily chart, not too much to go over today, different than we've seen. We did break above this 1902 way back when. We've been grinding higher above the 21-day, even with the volatility last Thursday engulfing it, and now all you do know is your pivot is 1989. We get above 1989, that 2000 could happen quick. Just be careful, make adjustments when you go through pivots.
All right, well, meanwhile, earnings continue to roll in. We heard from Facebook yesterday, which beat expectations and saw soaring ad revenues. And it looks like the street likes the report so far. Scott, yesterday you said that the highs of the year for Facebook were not in, and I guess you were right.
Well, I've been trying to be a bull on this stock, ever since a year and a half ago or so when I was with Jim Cramer talking about that it can get back to its IPO highs of 44 that we saw the cup and handle pattern. You look here at the chart, this was way back when, this was the cup and handle pattern that we were talking about, okay? And everyone, I almost even got some hate mail because I think I said it was going to go back to 44 and Barron's was calling for 15. Anyway, it ignited right here, okay, remember that? When it ignited on that quarter's earnings, when it crossed above this resistance, when even if you weren't in it for this, you could have turned the trade on then, and then fast forward to what's been going on here. What I like to show is I like to show winners that you could have built wealth with, okay? Because it does happen in the market. Most people say the market's rigged, the market's broken, blah blah blah. This was a nice gap, and look at this trend that it's held the entire way. And if you try and day trade it, there's money there. It's definitely a little bit more difficult. But if you try to have at least alongside bias when it held here, or when it snapped back, or when Yellen came out and said valuations are stretched and it didn't go down, because it did not go down in here, all of a sudden you have a huge winner. So actively last night, I think that some traders were trying to trade it through 72.59, which is the pivot. You always have a previous high pivot for adjustments. If you were short, that's where hopefully you covered. If you were looking for additional longs, there you go. Now it's all the way up here at 77-ish. So if you have never bought Facebook for that entire time period, I probably wouldn't think you should do it up here. But if you're trying to short it, make sure you have a plan, because who knows, there's nothing to the left and anything could happen.
Well, maybe there's something to do with some names in the rest of the group that with Facebook's results, a lot of attention could be paid to some of these social media names like LinkedIn, which is actually Mark Sperling's play of the week this week and has rallied since it became his play of the week. What are your thoughts on LinkedIn?
Well, it shows you that if you're not caught in what has been a pretty big corrective phase, you could time it, and he tried to time it this week. And if you look here at the chart of LinkedIn, you will see it's been in a corrective phase all the way since 260, and not really showing any signs of life. Then finally, we've tried it a few times in the last month or so. Sperling liked it here if it got above 163, and it did. Already paid you and almost met the measured move. Right now you have some resistance to 175, so I don't think if you're not in LinkedIn, you start buying it today. Okay, you probably should trim and trail. But again, realize that if you just start shorting it, you know what, if it gets through here, your next level could be 181, and it's come all the way down from 250. So opportunities, are here, but today could be a tricky one with LinkedIn.
Is there opportunity to be found with Twitter? We've been talking about how Twitter has been quiet and out of play. Do you think Facebook's results could lift it?
Well, it's already lifting it somewhat. I think it's up a decent percent. The question is, does it hold? I've been talking about how I think, you go out a little bit long term, you could buy the $40 calls or maybe even play it for earnings because the consensus is so negative here. And at some point, I do think that they increase their user base. I think they figure out a way to make money just like Facebook. The valuation is a little high right now, but they could grow into it. So anyway, you look at Twitter and you'll see you have a small little pivot right here, which it's above. If it could stay above 38.5, 39, you don't have really resistance till 40, and then back here at 42.83. Okay, I actually bought some options which are on the VTF a few days back, thinking maybe if Facebook's good, it's a good way for me to play it. And as we get closer to earnings, the premiums could be lifted. And look where this was last year, as high as 75. So if they show any kind of user engagement numbers or growth numbers, at some point, by year end, they could be 50 to 55. And that's a nice percentage gain. And if you don't want to hold the stock, go with some calls longer term.
All right. What about Yelp? Because Yelp has been somewhat quiet as well. It's been a bit of a laggard. It does look as though it might be getting a little bit tight. Do you think some momentum could come back here?
If it's going to happen, it should be today. This is when social will be in play with Facebook, and this has been out of play and it's been somewhat broken. Real quickly, you look at Yelp, just at the chart, it's got to get above 70, 50 with crazy volume. So if today you get a gap and go, perhaps it ignites a move like you had here, but overall it's been tight, out of play, and really hard to make money with. But above 70.31, maybe shorts get squeezed, then you get a trade there.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk high beta with Apple's reporting a solid quarter, and it actually cleared your pivot buy areas yesterday. Do you think 100 that we keep talking about is next, even with Qualcomm's guidance being weak?
It could be. It might slow it down a little bit today. Yesterday, when we were doing the morning call, it was negative, and I'm like, you know what, let's figure out if it gets some buying, if it goes through pivots, and then we'll readjust. So you look here at the chart, this is all we knew about yesterday. You had a big trend since a quarter goes earnings with lots of trades along the way and very tight. So once it got above 95.27, that could have been buy number one, and then above 97.10, buy number two. So this is what happened yesterday. Nice day, held the trend, and looks good. I would say today, I'd like to see it hold above 97.10, maybe go a little sideways, and then at some point take out this 97.88. But with I think AT&T and Qualcomm's guidance being lower, it might tepid it a little bit. So holding at least half would be good. I'll stay with this thing as long as it holds above 96. If it doesn't, then it turns back into a little bit of a choppy trade. Qualcomm, everyone thought this was going to be really good based on handhelds and blah blah blah. PS, the guidance was light, and I would say look to see how it handles this 77.5. If it can't hold this big support going sideways, then you have the 200-day all the way down here.
What about Google? Google's been hanging in there. Do you think that 2014 highs are next?
I think it's hanging in great. I'm not even going to get into the chart above 595. If it stays there, I do think there's a possibility for it to take out 609, and then that would bring momentum back.
And how about Netflix, which of course has been on the weaker side?
Well, that has had an amazing run, and the earnings weren't wow. They actually missed, and they tried to, kind of, could not say cover it up, but the bulls tried to talk about, subscription growth overseas. All in all, it's not really acting so well. So if you're looking for something that might be a short, I know Netflix is really hard to short, but it failed here. We talked about if it can't get over 455, perhaps it's a short, and now it's hovering here near the 50-day, which it hasn't seen in a while. So see how it acts here. If it doesn't get back above, just say like this 435 in the next session or so, even if the market's strong, then perhaps you get a bear flag and you get some kind of short here down to maybe 417, and then next support doesn't really even come down to about 395. But be careful. Shorting stocks are not for novices out there. Not
for the faint of heart.
At all.
Well, as markets extend, some money is flowing into retail. Target looks like it had a day one yesterday. Do you think it gets a day two?
You know what? I'm in it. I bought it yesterday. I'm like, the market's trending. Money's getting put to work in places. Maybe my swing account, I could buy some of this. And I still think maybe people don't remember the security breach, or they've worked through it. This downtrend was broken. You have a day one yesterday. Tried to reclaim the 200-day. I think if you're conservative and you want to have some money in the market, it just got its 200-day back. So you're not buying momentum, but you bought the dip. So if you want to be long verse 59. It should not come back below 59. And today, if it were to get above yesterday's high of 60.84, perhaps the next real resistance level for a trade doesn't come in till 62 and change.
How about Walmart? What can we do with this one? It is perking up.
This one actually was my play of the year like 3 years ago when I had a decade channel and it worked out well. And since then, it's channeling again. Okay, if you look back at this stock, you go to the weekly chart, just I want to reminisce a little bit. That channel was all the way down here. I remember this very well because I did a segment where they were like, 10 years of pain, and we wound up getting a nice trade above it. So here it is, still trending, still looks okay. And then if you go for a quick trade on the shorter term, there's a nice little bull flag. Okay, a bull flag that could lead to some type of tradable action. Here it is. Yesterday, you have a day one. After every day one, it seems to have a red day. Hopefully not this time. If it gets above yesterday's high of 77.06, perhaps it gets to at least resistance here of 77.50. It moves very slow. It's just if you have multiple positions on and you can handle that.
Well, speaking of channels, it's not quite a 10-year channel, but Home Depot looks like it's been in almost a 2-year channel. Do you think this could be a place to put some money for the rest of the year?
It looks like it's been building and building. And this, too, I think this was my play of the year 4 years ago. Same type of thing. These huge channels get resolved usually after consolidation. And this one's been consolidating. And, if you want to put some money to work, this is above the 200-day. I don't think it's not a tech momentum type name, but it's been sideways long enough, right, or maybe long enough from May all the way through over a year and a half. So it's perking up a little bit. Retail's been kind of out of play. This is more of like maybe fix up your house, cheaper retails. But at this point, it seems like it's got room to about 82. If you want to go with something, those three look like they're okay.
And let's do a quick check on the banks, which have woken up since earnings. A lot of these names perked up yesterday. Which ones are high on your radar?
Well, Goldman Sachs has been leading, but this one to me looks very extended. Almost if it's up today, I might look for a cute short. You look at Goldman Sachs right here, you'll see that after the report, it gapped up and held and then gave a nice trade above this 172. It already went above where I thought it could go to, which is right here, and now it's on its way back to almost the December 2014 high. So maybe in this area, you either sell some or look for a cute short. Morgan, I'm long. I still think this has room. It's just breaking above this 33 area. I'll stay in it as long as it holds above 33 and above yesterday's high of 33.45. It could perhaps continue. And then another one, Citigroup, talked about the change of complexion above 48.80. Tried to extend yesterday. It didn't have much power, but I still think it looks good. If it gets above 50, 59, perhaps we see 51 or higher. I'll stay with this one as long as it stays above 49.80.
All right, so lots to do out there. What are your closing thoughts as we get ready to begin the trading session?
It seems like there's a lot of opportunities if you look around for opportunities, which I just said, and pick stocks. You're looking to pick stocks and pick winners based on a time frame that you feel comfortable with. You probably are doing much better than trying to pick a top. There are a lot of people out there who aren't in the market that are trying to call a top or have shorted the market and are bitter. And if that's you, I know you don't want to buy potentially near a top, but choose stocks. Stocks are moving around. You have some of the historic stock. Just Facebook is a pure example on if you're a stock picker, you could have bought it multiple times and built yourself some wealth. If you trade trends, you also could have been on the long bias of Facebook. And if you played patterns, there's been times to use a tier system to create cash flow. So lots of things you could do in the market if you actually approach it and get a plan, and that's what we try and help you do here.
All right, and that is your morning call for this Thursday. Happy trading. Have a great day.